of our obligations to one another. After the events of the past few years, the issues of health equity and social justice are even more critical to our mission. Many thanks to the Center for Leadership Advisory Council, which is led by Dr. Pamela Newman, founder, president, and CEO of PGN Strategies. Mr. John Confetta, founder, CEO, and general partner of Medical Excellence Capital. And Michael J. Hoffman, chairman emeritus and founder of Changing Our World. We will now begin the day with an invocation by Sister Marianne Daly of the Sisters of Charity of New York. She's also auxiliary chaplain of the College of Mount St. Vincent.
Let us take a moment to pray. Good and gracious God, open our minds and hearts this day so that we might focus on the common good. Let us hear your call to us in this place of the needs of the people of the world, that they may meet with the gifts and talents that you have given us. May common good not be a catchphrase, but a force in our decision-making. May what we learn here take root in our lives so that we might act on our knowledge and thus become a transforming agent in our world. This is what we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Sister Marianne. I will now turn things over to the 6th president of the College of Mount St. Vincent, Dr. Susan Burns.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, we can do that better. Good morning, everyone. That's better. I'm excited to get started, and I'm ecstatic to have you all here with us today for our inaugural summit of the Center for Leadership. What a timely conversation around health equity and social justice. Understanding how we change, how to create change within a healthcare system and health professions. Education is essential for creating a more inclusive, equitable, and healthier society. Everyone deserves equal rights and opportunities, and this includes the right to good health. Yet today there are inequities in health that are avoidable, they're unnecessary, and they are unjust. And these inequities are widely documented with thousands of studies published on the topic. So what's the missing link? Today we'll have the chance to hear from and engage with various thought leaders who are seeking to combat health disparities through education, outreach, and research. I'm certain that these discussions will empower those in attendance and across our community to shape and tell their own stories and to enact change. Our community here at the College of Mount St. Vincent is a powerful one. As you will come to understand, the right place on the river, as I love to call this place, is much more than your typical college. Here, education goes beyond knowledge, skills, and preparation for work. We pride ourselves in our commitment to each and every student, and we strive to cultivate independent thinkers ready to apply critical inquiry toward lives of leadership, service, and innovation. Mount St. Vincent has been a forerunner in creating a path to graduation for generations of students. Even as the college continues to grow, serving the needs of our students remains paramount. More and more learners from diverse communities dream of earning a degree, and the Mount has been an engine for turning those dreams into reality. That success has been due in part to the Mount's vibrant network of student support services. With a mission of helping to develop the whole person, advisors challenge students to exercise their minds as well as their hearts. Mount St. Vincent pushes learners to pursue their passions while providing a step-by-step guidance to set a plan and see it through. We're partners in the learning process with our learners. Every member of our community learns what our students need to thrive and then works incredibly hard to to make sure that they get it. That's especially important when it comes to our Oxley Integrated Advising Program. Our Oxley Integrated Advising Program, which the Center for Leadership is intentionally connected to. Because of this Oxley program, our students can build skills and plan to discover their best academic and professional options to launch their career. That type of support, with not only a faculty advisor, but a professional advisor as well, begins on our students' first day on campus, and then continues with them until graduation and much further beyond. Now, through our brand new Center for Leadership, we're able to advance such experiences for our students, expanding the avenues for holistic preparation for a lifetime of meaningful achievement. The center was created to provide intentional leadership opportunities, which will strengthen our students an understanding of their own unique potential and how to manifest the best versions of themselves as they engage as members of our community and the community beyond the borders of our campus. Through immersive programming, undergraduate and graduate coursework in leadership, membership in the prestigious National Society of Leadership and Success, mentorship and advisement, workshops, blogs, internships, and so much more. Our students will gain confidence and interpersonal skills needed to achieve their fullest potential while they are at the college and when they've graduated to be ready for the challenges that lie ahead. Carrying out the mission of the Center for Leadership is a multidisciplinary undertaking supported by members who represent every aspect of this college, and the summit is a direct result of their efforts. Among these partners exists a remarkable, as Dr. Bhaji had mentioned, a remarkable influential advisory council, co-chaired by Dr. Pamela Newman, John Pavetta, and Mike Hoffman. Thank you to each of you for your willingness to step up and lean into this leadership opportunity for our students. We sincerely thanks. I'd like to also thank the many offices, members of our faculty and staff, and our leadership team for their role in organizing today's events. Especially, I'd like to give thanks to Dr. Lynn Bajibani and Dr. Gabrielle Ochoa. So please give that a round of applause. To each of you in attendance today, thank you for participating in these informative and necessary conversations. It was time to bring together leaders of today to highlight the issues that impact health equity and social justice. In a world of complex problems, being part of something that reduces disparities and barriers is essential, and we appreciate your participation in those conversations. We're grateful to our speakers, presenters, and panelists for their insights and expertise, and especially for their commitment to help us meet our students when, where, and how they need us. It wouldn't be an event at the right place on the river, especially Wednesday at a microphone, without a selfie to document the story of what's happening today. So what I'm going to ask you to do, have some good breakfast. Maybe the coffee is kicking in. What we're going to do is we're going to stand up and we're going to move to the middle and we're going to take a picture together.
You can go behind me. For our learners, for our community, again, on this campus and in this world. And so I want to capture that
I'll post a link to him and take photos throughout the day. And I would encourage you too to take photos throughout the day. And Miss Universe is going to give the opportunity to take some photos with us later. And make sure that you tag at Mount St. Vincent in those photos or hashtag Right Place on the River, because we want to make sure people see the important work that we're doing at the Mount. Now, without further ado, I am pleased to welcome Bishop Edmund James Whalen for an opening presentation on the Catholic intellectual tradition in today's world, the first in a series of discussions on the role of the Catholic intellectual tradition in today's society. Bishop Whalen is a kind and steadfast leader and a humble, gifted servant of God. During his youth, he was a member of the Blessed Sacrament Parish in his hometown of Staten Island. He went on to Monsignor Barrow High School, where he later returned to teach religion and became chair of the religion department. He was ordained a deacon in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome in 1983, and he served as deacon in the diocese in Kenya, which helped him to understand the richness of our Catholic faith in its diverse expressions. In 1984, he was ordained priest in St. Patrick's Cathedral by then Archbishop John O'Connor, after which he returned to Rome and completed a doctorate in moral theology. Years later, he became pastor of St. Benedict's Parish in Throgs Neck, and after 6 years, he was named pastor of St. Joseph and St. Thomas Parish in Staten Island, where he served until 2010 when he became Monsignor Barrow's principal. Some good amount of students have graduated from that high school as well. I'm very proud of that. In January 2019, Cardinal Dolan named him Vicar for Clergy. We are thankful for Bishop Whalen's service to others, for his faith, and for the wisdom he will be sharing with us this morning. This presentation is included in the Center for Leadership's annual summit by Joan Moran, a Mount St. Vincent alumna and former Board of Trustees chairperson, in memory of her father, Deacon John R. Moran, in recognition of his lifelong service to God and to others. Joan, thank you. Sincerely thank you for your efforts. Thank you for being with us and for your time today. I invite Bishop Whalen to the podium.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. Thank you. Well, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. As always, especially here in this very important spot for all of us who learned how to read and write from the Sisters of Charity and were born in their hospitals, Sister Marianne said it all when she said, common good isn't just an idea, it's a lived reality. And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. We're talking about the fact that because of who you are, as students, faculty, as alumni of the Mount, it's never about ideas, it's always about people. So let's just take a couple of minutes to set the sort of the scene for it, and then take a few minutes to look at what this is about as you continue on today in understanding the fact that not only are you called to leadership, you have a responsibility to leadership. We need you. The world's crazy. But the leadership that you learn here, who you become here, is going to be what makes the difference. Not just in a couple of days or at a seminar or in your job, but because of who you are and who you become here at Mount St. Vincent, you make the difference. Let's take a look at it. First off, as always, our Holy Father Pope Francis, every school teacher, you have to remember that. So all of us who are teachers know we can recognize each other at 1,000 paces. The Holy Father was a school teacher for years. And we school teachers always help each other out because they had all these great ideas for the opening. And then yesterday, the Holy Father sat down with a bunch of students. And as he always does, he goes right back into teacher mode. And he took what is one of the most difficult themes in all of our Catholic religious understanding and brought it down to 2 sentences that made perfect sense. I was given the task of talking about faith and reason as the launch pad. And there are books and articles and doctoral dissertations written on the understanding of faith and reason and the relationship between the two of them that would fill this room twice over. And nobody ever raised them. because they're incomprehensible. But the Holy Father yesterday, with a group of students, defined faith, reason, the relationship between the two, and really launches us today to see why, especially after what we've been through as a world, as a nation, as a city, as my beloved Bronx. And that's very important. We're going to get back to that. But we're in the Bronx. I know the neighbors call it Riverdale. We're in the Bronx. It's important for us as we start to understand how we make that common good not an idea, but a reality. First is, what is reason? Well, reason is the ability to be able to look at things, take them in, understand them, the Holy Father says. It's a gift of God. It's part of who we are as persons. It's an integral part of what it means to be human. Because human isn't a bunch of cells. It isn't just being biological. To be human is to be able to appreciate a reality that's in front of us, understand it, take it apart, see its relationship within itself and with others, and then figure out what to do with it. That, Pope Francis says, that capacity to distinguish between an objective reality and its subjective worth. What it's worth, not monetarily, but for who that person or who that reality is, by using the gift of the logic, by thinking it through, and that's not easy. And for us, that's done in the context of faith. Faith isn't believing in an external. Faith is a personal relationship. But because it's a personal relationship, and by our nature as persons, we're never alone. So sometimes you see my personal faith in God. Never. It's us and God. Because if it's just me and God, I've got God wrong. And God always looks at all of us together. Each of us as individuals, but only in the context of who we are together. Because it's only in the interaction. You know that from being students here. Think for a minute as we begin. Those of you who are students here. How has this place changed you? Maybe you've been here just a couple months. Maybe you've been here a few years. Maybe you're an alumna coming back. Maybe you're somebody who's been part of the place and you came from another educational institution, but you came here and it's different. It's not just the spectacular view of the river. What's right on the river isn't the river. It's what flows through you because you're at the mountain. And that's what we're going to take a look at today. Because that's how the faith and reason comes together. Pope Francis reminds us that to understand the gift of the mind God gave us, lived in the body in which we live, for others with whom we live, we need to have three things very important to always keep in mind. First, openness. Openness. That's why I asked you, think for a minute how this place changed you, how it continues to change you, how it continues to make you understand yourself and others in a way you never did till you made that turn off Riverdale Avenue, came onto this beautiful campus, and let yourself be open to it. Because you know, there are people in your dorm, there are people you've sat in class with, there are people whom you've had as students in class, and because they weren't open to the experience, it couldn't work. It wasn't that the opportunity wasn't there, but they wouldn't let it in. So as Pope Francis says, we have to have an openness to others, an openness to the experience, an openness to ourselves. Because if there's one thing you're going to learn at the Mount, you never got yourself figured out. And if you think you got yourself figured out, then you're going to fall and make a big splat. It's when you're open to being continually renewed and created. And you do that by the second piece that Pope Francis reminds us of, reflection. And one of the beauties of being able to study here on this spectacular campus is to get it right on the river. How often have you as students, maybe in good days and maybe in bad, how often have you taken the opportunity to just go for a walk on campus? And as you walk around, as generations have done before, it kind of all comes together. You know, that will be, it's you never do. But it starts to come together. It's the whole beauty of God's creation in this remarkable place, and then someone passes you, and that's the beauty of God's creation too. God's creation isn't just the stuff, the trees, nature. It's the other people with whom you share this experience. And because of that, you're able to have that discourse, that discussion that only happens because first you listen, an openness to hear, and a willingness to respond, and a recognition that it's a conversation that never really ends. Because it's a conversation that's not done just in theory and ideas. Just like Sister Marianne said about the common good. It's only real when we put it into practice. So that's why today I want to take a few minutes with you and just take a look at how do we understand? Whom do we understand a leader to be? Because the word leadership, that's gotten completely confused. We need to understand what is the leader, who is the leader, where does the leader then lead us? And the leader leads us in social justice. You gotta remember something. We hear that term all the time. Justice is not Judge Judy justice. Judge Judy justice is, this is what I get. Justice for us as a people of God's Word, people of the Bible, the Hebrew word for justice. And by the way, when you get down Riverdale Avenue, if you look across on the other side of the Henry Hudson, the Riverdale Jewish Center has it written right up there in stone. The word in Hebrew is sadak. And the Hebrew word sadak means right relationship. That's the word for justice. A right relationship. The right relationship first and foremost with the God who gave us life. That right relationship with the God who gave us life, because He didn't just give it to me, He gave it to all of us. It's our relationship with one another. And because He gave it to us in the context of this beautiful world which we appreciate on this campus, it's our right relationship with His creation. And because it's us living it, then it's got to be the right relationship with myself. So social justice only exists when we take the justice, the sadak, the right relationship with God, others, with His world, and the gift of my own being. And then we bring it to who we are. Because as you know here at the Mount, you're never alone. There's always somebody there to prop you up, push you forward, keep you in line, challenge you to grow, and ask you to do the same for them. So let's get to the primary question. Is Judge going to get re-signed with the Yankees? What's it going to be like if we lose Aaron Judge? The Bronx, we got to keep Aaron Judge. Why? Not just because he's 6'7". Watch Aaron Judge. Watch him play ball. Watch him hit the home runs. Remember everybody, the whole city, the whole country was focused on, is he going to meet Maris's record? Is he going to go beyond Maris's record? What does Aaron Judge do every time he gets up at bat? Every time he hits the home run? He gives it his all. He gives it his all, and even as he hits that ball, and he knows whether or not it's going out. That was the whole problem in the slump there in the beginning of the playoffs. When he said, I knew the wind was going, I knew it wasn't going to happen. But even though he knows it's going out of the park, he doesn't just jog around bases. He gives it his all. He goes and he makes sure he touches each base. And then notice what Aaron Judge does every home run between third and home. About 2/3 of to God, and on his lips you can read, "Thank you." And when he interviews after the game, it's never chest thump, all about me. It's always about the team. It's always about how well the other team played. It's always about I went out there and I did my job. It's never about him, it's always about others, because that's what gives him the ability to give it his all and to recognize it's a gift from God. And that's a leader. That's why he's the captain of the team. And that's the leadership that we need to talk about today. Because a leader is first a listener. If the leader doesn't listen, the leader has no rudder. The leader doesn't know where we are. And the leader can't help us to get where we're going if at first the leader doesn't know where we're at. So just as Judge listens to his teammates, for us, first and foremost, the leader must be the listener. The one who's attentive to those around him. So who is a leader? 3 things. First, a leader is not a leader is not one. A leader is not about himself or herself. A leader is someone who recognizes and appreciates their own individuality, their personality, their capacities, their fears, their limitations, their limits, their potential. That has the good, clear vision of self that always needs to be clarified. Recognizes that it doesn't always have it all together. Never is finished. The leader is never on his or her own. We only recognize who we are as individuals called to be leaders, because that's why this place exists. This place doesn't exist to turn you into business success. This place exists to help you become a person who helps others. That's why it's been here. That's why we can't lose it. That's why I'm thrilled to see it thrive. And that's the legacy. That's your challenge as students. Not a leader on their own, but recognizing that it's only in concert with others, each of us giving the gift of who we are because we appreciate it as the gift from God. It's only then that we're able to run the bases of life together and reach home. Giving it our all, recognizing the gift from God, and realizing it's not for me, but it's a gift I've got to give to the team of our human race. Second, the leader is rooted. The leader has to be rooted in the fundamental values that serve as the basis for the reality of who we are as persons. Not as experience, not concept, but a lived reality. The lived reality, who are we? What does it mean to be human? What's the uniqueness of our gift? We know, each and all of us, no matter who we are, whether we believe in God, whatever we might call God, each and every one of us, what it means to be human is we're made in the image of God. Not that we look like God, because we all look differently. If God would imagine how boring it would be if we all looked exactly alike. To be made in the image of God, no matter what a person's religion might be, or they have no religion at all. To be made in the image of God means we're able to love. Not the love of warm, fuzzy feelings, but the love is the recognition of the goodness with which we are made, the goodness we have been given. Sometimes we mess it up. Sometimes we find it hard to see in ourselves. Sometimes others don't see it because they don't look beyond what the externals are about. But to be made in the image of God is to be able to love, to give of the self to others, especially when there's no give back. When I'm not going to get anything out of it. But as you know, as you've given yourself to this experience of Mount St. Vincent, it's only when you give of yourself that you become who you are. And then you're able to appreciate all the more the talents that are there. To go beyond the fear and the limitations that you think you have to the limitless possibility of the gifts God has given you. And to appreciate them in the people around you and the people for whom you are getting ready to serve. Remember that, students. On the days you don't want to do it, on the days you don't think you can, on the days you think it's too hard, try to imagine one person whom you are going to help through whatever your major is. Maybe it's going to be something in health sciences. Maybe it's going to be something in education. Maybe it's going to be something in the business world where you're not there to make money, but you're there to change people's living conditions. You don't know that person yet, but try to imagine someone who you will help. When you do that, you'll probably have the experience that a group of 55 12-year-old boys had when a long time ago, their teacher challenged them to do that. Her name was Sister Ann Denise Brennan. She taught here for years. She taught me in my 7th grade. She also taught all my brothers here from Staten Island. And whenever you meet anybody from Staten Island, the first question they ask you is, how's Sister Ann Denise? She's in the front of the room. 55 boys in the room, one nun in the front of the room, everybody could do mental math. And she challenged us to think of the people whom we would help. And this frequently happened. I'm sure Sister was looking back at 55 12-year-olds going, what is she talking about? Then she started to describe what that person might look like, what that person might be, who that person might become. And in her amazing way, she was describing each one of us and how we were called to recognize that coming out of ourselves, we would change others. That's who a leader is. You're able to inspire others with the understanding of true inspiration. Remember the Genesis stories? We all know that's not how the creation happened, but it was a way to try to understand it. How did God create the human person? He reached down and took a handful of clay. And what made that clay become human? He breathed into it and gave it life. Inspiration, spirare in the Latin, is to breathe. Inspiration is to have the breath of God breathe into us that takes us from mere flesh and makes us human. In a concrete situation that raises us above just an understanding of the immediate experience to the significance within. And it gives our existence a worth. It gives us an understanding that we're called to bring that to others as the true leader. And a leader isn't always in the front. A leader is in 3 positions in life. The leader is in the front, the leader is in the middle, and the leader is at the end. A true leader knows that the people whom he or she is serving, and that's what leadership is, the true leader knows that at times people need to be guided. They need to have somebody started to take the chance of being in front and figuring out the next step, but you don't stay there long. Because you don't know if you're really going in the right direction until you pull back and get in the middle of the crowd and listen to what's going on around you and see if the people who are now up in front can continue that journey. And then you make sure that you get to the back, because some people kind of trail off on their own. But we can't let them get lost. So the leader makes sure to gather up those who have gone off the path, or maybe have a harder time following the road, and keep them in the ball game and get them to the middle, because we need them in the front, because they're going to be leaders too. And so to do that today, I want to just take a few minutes with you and not talk about theory, but talk about 3 models of leadership. Not theoretically, but to 3 people. 3 people who really, every day, walk the halls, the pathways, the river walk. 3 people who are very much living and breathing on this campus. First, Jesus. He's the reason we're here. He's the reason it's about, no matter what faith we're on. Because he came among us as one of us. Think about that for a minute. God comes among us as one of us. It's pretty amazing. When I was mentioning the experience, one of the most formative experiences of my life was working in the missions in Africa. It was to the Bakusu tribe. This was a part of Kenya and Uganda. That was kind of when the Bakusu were across the borders. The British, as they did, they just drew straight lines. They didn't care where the indigenous peoples lived. So the Bakusu that was kind of like almost the Appalachia of East Africa. It was the poorest of the poor, the most primitive, and some of the most intelligent people I've ever met. As we work with the Bakusu, one of the things that I learned from them was to appreciate the individuality of each person and to deal with it. Because of inbreeding, many of the Bakusu wound up growing a 6th finger. And that 6th finger, rather than being a handicap or something that would hamper them, was something that they figured out how to utilize to take care of those who didn't have fingers. So the person with the 6th finger, that person they believed was born to take care of those who had none. Beautiful concept of what leadership is about. The Bakusu, they had beautiful understanding of what the world was there for. The world was the place where God walked, a place where they were to understand God's presence. So for them, the fact that God wasn't distant and other and out there, we were on the side of Mount Elgon. Mount Elgon was covered with clouds. And they believed that God, called Lulu, lived up there. And if he was angry, he would send rain. If he would send no rain, there would be no rain, and the crops would die, and it would mean. If he was happy, he would send rain, and the crops would grow. But then we came along and talked to them about a God who walked among us. We take that for granted because we've heard it a lot of lives. For them, it was changing. They recognized that if God walked among them, that changed everything. So for us, the first model of leadership is this Jesus who walked among us. Now, we all know the stories. We've heard them. We're getting ready for Christmas. Everybody loves the Christmas stories. They're cute, they're nice, they're warm. But let's take a look. You know, the Annunciation, Mary, beautifully depicted right here in your chapter. Mary was about 15, 16. That depiction of the Annunciation is the most depicted scene in all of the Bible, in all of art. Not the resurrection, not the crucifixion, not the birth, the Annunciation. A 15-year-old girl in a backwater town. And Gabriel shows up and challenges her to be who God was asking her to be. Sound familiar? Every day God shows up here on campus. And he challenges you to be who he wants you to be, who he's called you to be, who he enables you to be that leader. Mary says in the Gospels, post-trumathai, we translate that as how can this be? It's very polite. It's not very polite in the original Greek. In the original Greek, it's get out of here. You gotta be kidding me. Gabriel, it doesn't work that way. What do you mean I'm gonna be the mother of God? I thought my whole life ahead of me, Joseph and I have these plans. Yet Mary is challenged to say yes to a God who shows up shows up, that Jesus. He is the one who enables the people to understand the challenge to be leaders. How does he do it? What's his attitude? Think of every gospel story you know where Jesus encounters others. What's the first thing in all of them? He looks at them. Think about that. He always looks directly at the person. To me, a great example of it is watch the post-game interviews with Aaron Judge. You've got that locker room, there's a lot of music playing in the background. Everyone, the chaos that's going on, even in the midst of the celebrations, when they finally were going, against shooting champagne at each other. He did the same thing he does in every interview. Aaron Judge looks directly at the reporter who's asking the question. In that wild, loud, crazy locker room, he focuses on that individual. And that question is respected, really reverenced, and answered. Jesus, in every encounter as the leader, looks directly at the person whom he encounters. He focuses on that individual for who they are, with their limitations, with their sinfulness, with their fears, with their God-given dignity. That's the beginning of being a leader, is looking directly at the person, not beyond them to the next person coming up, not to somebody else who's more important or better looking, not to somebody who might have more to offer me, but to focus on the individual because they're an individual. Then what does he do? He listens to them. He doesn't talk at them. The first thing Jesus, the leader, does is listen to the person because they need to express their need. He's not telling them, this is what you need to do. Let me just tell you and get this over with. We all have that temptation. What do they understand their need to be? So as we search for health, equity, and the common good, the first thing we need to do is listen to the people who are coming to us for help. Listen to the people who aren't asking for help because they're so used to nobody helping them, they've given up asking. Listen to the surrounding voices that are yelling over them so that we can shut them out and listen to the person who needs to be heard. And then what does Jesus do? There's always human contact. You know, we're coming out of 3 years of masks. Okay? Everyone's tired of the mask. And I don't know about you, but people who you knew, you didn't recognize them because they were masked. Well, Jesus goes beyond the distancing that we've given to ourselves and the fear now that comes from that. We have to be practical, we have to be careful. But Jesus reminds us again of the importance of human contact and interaction. Now, those are some of the, Dr. Burns mentioned, I always push guys here to the mount, because at the mount, nobody falls through the cracks. And I would especially push the guys who have great ability, but sometimes they needed to make sure they weren't going to fall through the cracks, and I knew if they came here, they would. If you ever ask any of the many young men whom I taught over my time as a teacher, they will tell you that I am a technological disaster. Okay? I would have had to hang up the chalk, because I still believe in chalk. Okay, I would have had to hang up the chalk over this whole Zoom learning. Let's face it, you don't learn on Zoom. The only thing you learn on Zoom is how to put up that picture of yourself that makes you look like you're interested. Okay? Also, you learn how to be, if you're live and you're looking, but you're still texting down here, you're able to do that without getting your eyes off the screen. Education is interaction. Jesus always reaches out and physically touches the person because it's a sign that he's touching their heart. Because they've been listened to. They've been respected. They've been seen. And then he's able to heal. In the true biblical sense of healing. The biblical word for healing is therapeutic. That's what we get the word therapy. Therapy is not a magic act. Therapy restores that which is, right? Physical therapy, those of you who are athletes here, you go for physical therapy. Some of you may be studying physical therapy here in the program. Sometimes it seems like you're torturing the person. But what you're doing, you're not creating something else. You're restoring it to what it should be so that it functions better. That's the healings. It's a realization of the need and providing for it, so it restores the reality that is. And then what does Jesus do? He sends them out. Every one of those encounters that begins with a look, continues with the conversation, enables the encounter of the touch, the healing that's the restoration. The result is Jesus says, all right now, go do it for somebody else. Sister Anthony said to those 55 12-year-old boys, imagine who you're going to help. Second one, another somebody who wanders this campus every day, and he's able to wander it, and he doesn't need an ID card. Vincent, the one for whom it's named. If you haven't read his life, read it. It's a fantastic life. It's a life that is markedly like that of each one of us here today. You know, there were three basic principles that Vincent in his life took to heart, taught those who were his followers, both in the Sisters of Charity and the men in the congregation of the mission, those who were sent. Humility, simplicity, charity. That's the recipe for the leader. That's the examination of conscience for the leader. That's the challenge the leader should have before herself every day. Humility, simplicity, charity. What's humility? Humility isn't go behind the door, know me, and I'm not important. No, that's false humility. Humility, again, what is the original meaning of the word? It comes from the word for dirt. And the word is humus. Because let's face it, hummus looks like dirt. And hummus a lot of times tastes like dirt unless you put something else in it. Humility is to be like the dirt. If you think for a minute, beautiful groundscape. Doesn't do much. Looks like it just kind of sits there. But on a day like today, the sun shines on it and it takes in its warmth. On a day like the past few days, the rain rains on it and it takes in that moisture. In a few months, the snow will cover it, and it brings it slowly in, and it lets itself be cut open, and the seeds are planted in it, and some pretty unpleasant fertilizer gets thrown on top, and quietly, silently, seemingly without anything happening, the shell of the seed is broken, and the inner beauty is allowed. That's humility. Being like the dirt. Being willing to let God work on you. Being receptive and open to the way He works on you, especially in your years here. As you let yourself be changed. As you let yourself be led to be a leader. As you open yourself to God in the rainy moments of life when everything seems to be drowning. On the beautiful moments of life when the sun is shining and it's going great. To let the Lord fertilize you with some pretty impressive and pretty difficult and sometimes smelly challenges. To be cut open from that protective shell that we mask ourselves with so that He can see us, converse with us, touch us, heal us, and send us out. That's the humility that Vincent de Paul said was first and foremost to becoming a leader. Given, received, so as to be given and received by another. Individual after individual after individual. I think of that, the greatest teacher I ever had, 4th grade, Sister Maria Regis, 55 9-year-old boys. Catholic schools didn't have libraries in those days. So she would march us to the public library. And there we all were, and many of us still talk about this. All of a sudden, a book would appear in front of you. And it was exactly the book you needed. It was at your reading level and challenged you a little bit. It was something you were interested in, so you were going to read it. It was doable, and a week later, Sister would ask you about it. Not like a test, but a conversation. And 55 different reading abilities, 55 different interests, 55 squirming 9-year-old boys, and every one of them got the book that was best for him. That was because there was an understanding. There was a look. That was the humility, and that led to the simplicity. It's not about the big stuff. It's not about whiz-bang. It's about those moments in the simplicity of being recognized for who you are and challenged to whom you may become. That's what Vincent and Paul talked about in simplicity. Don't be caring about big and grand and fancy. Care about live in the moment, in the simple, in what's before you. To have a clarity of vision of yourself and others so that you don't miss anything that's there in the other, and it helps you to clarify what you've missed in yourself. Do what's necessary, nothing more. Be who you are, not somebody else. And in that simplicity of the moment and the need of the moment, not the grand project but what works for now, then we directly and effectively answer the need that brings the person into the crowd and enables the leader to step back because those who have been encountered can go forward. And the leader hears more of what the need is so that the leader is able to go back and she can find the ones who are falling away. That then leads us to the charity, not a handout. That's not charity. The charity, that's the dynamic force of the love that's in us. There used to be a sign down the road near the front. Caritas Christi urget nos. The charity of Christ, the love of God, doesn't urge us, it impels us. Once I let that look of Jesus pierce my heart, once I let that conversation begin, once he has touched my life, once he has healed me and given me the challenge, then I gotta go out and make a difference. I gotta do something for somebody else. Ask the alumni. The alumni, since the days of the men coming in, ask especially the older alumni. Be around young students. Towards the end of the year when there's alumni day and the elderly alumni come back, go and talk to them. You're not going to shut them up, trust me, they're going to talk to you forever. Talk to them about what their experience of this place has done for them. They have the wisdom of the ages. And they're going to tell you concrete examples of how being here gave them the courage and gave them the urge, the push, the oomph to go out and make a difference. Their stories are incredible. The number of people whose lives they touch, the ways in which they brought these values to the business world, to healthcare, to education, to their family. That's that Caritas Christi that urges nos. That's the true power of authority. The word authority doesn't mean power over. It means energy of God from within, the exousia. And for Vincent and Paul, that humility enables the simplicity and gives us the willingness to have lived the charity. It's concrete action for others. And that leads us to the third person who walks this campus. Her image is all over. Somebody who took to heart what Vincent said, who saw the hand of Jesus touch her life when it seemed to be hurting the most. Somebody like all the rest of us, a New York City kid, Elizabeth Ann Seaton. Kid from the neighborhood. Somebody who grew up here. She saw in the life of her father's work, the doctor in the quarantine station, taking care of the sick immigrants who came here. She heard those stories. She went with him to those places. She saw the needs of people around her, and despite the fact that at first her life was charmed, and then the charm fell apart, she sat with God and just talked to him. She sat with God and just was with him in silence. She drew that strength from God in the Eucharist to be able to go out and start the greatest educational system the world has ever known. The greatest hospital system the world has ever known. Our Catholic schools, our Catholic hospitals. They all go back, no matter what community of sisters was running. They all go back to the dream of one New York City kid who saw the needs of those around her, saw the way she could respond, went beyond the way her life seemed to come to pieces. And because she sat like I saw some of you doing, quietly with God in the Eucharist, had the ability in humility, simplicity, and charity to see with the eyes of Jesus, to engage in a conversation with his ears, to touch the hearts of countless people, to heal them, and to send them forth. And because of that, many of us learned to read and write. And we walked out of those classrooms knowing that that knowledge wasn't for us, it was for others. And that's why Mount St. Vincent exists. That's the leadership that's here. So, sorry, school teacher, it's always homework. I want you today to take some time, walk around the campus. Walk around the campus as a leader. Walk around the campus being led. Walk around the campus with Jesus and Vincent and Elizabeth Ann. And talk with them about three things. Who is a leader in your life? We all have many from whom to choose. You know, one of the ones I say, my class just had our 50th anniversary reunion for Blessed Sacrament. And that first question every guy asked was, how is, as we used to call her, sad? Sister Anthony used to give her initials SAD. She was never sad. She was perpetually happy. How sad? They also would ask for someone who taught us in high school, who's now in senior Jamie Sullivan, at that time he was in the priest. How's Sully? Who's the people, who is someone in your life who for you is a leader? Who's somebody who opened your eyes to the world? And because they opened your eyes to the world, they opened your eyes to yourself, to the possibility of actually making a difference, even when you didn't think you could. Who is somebody who picked you up when you fell down, dusted you off, said you were still good, and walked with you to make you try it again? And then second, think, talk, walk about that person for whom you can make a difference. Because then for you, that person is the leader. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bishop Whalen. Does anybody have any questions they would like to ask?
special guest?
I'm not allowed to talk to the student about this. I guess my question for Bishop, I don't know, who would you consider leading your life and why?
Who would I consider a leader in my life? A lot of people from whom to choose. Somebody right now, in my direct experience right now, who's a leader? I live on 29th Street, between 3rd Avenue and Lex, St. Stephen's. Used to be the biggest parish in the entire country. Now it's a Catholic. Work on it at all. Every morning, I walk to my office on 55th and 1st. I leave about 6 o'clock. Every morning I see a group of leaders. This group of guys, and they got all their delivery bicycles on 28th Street in front of the locked doors of St. Stephen's Church. Bunch of guys from Mexico. Every morning, they're all there, talking to God through the locked gates of the church. And they're leaders because when I get home, I don't get out of work till 8:30 or 9 at night. I run into them again. They've spent the entire day providing for their family. They look out for each other. They inspire me every day. They're leaders. They're not legal. They have no papers. They can't speak English. They work harder than anybody could imagine. Because it's for somebody else. That's it. Other questions? I get sufficiently bored doing it.
Thank you so much, Bishop Lund. Please. If you need a restroom, the ladies' room is on the first floor of this building. Men's restroom is on the second floor past the chapel. Fill up your coffee, grab a snack, and we'll come back at 10:30 with Miss Universe and Michael Hoffman and John Burke. See you in a few. 10:30, please.
He has served on our college board of trustees and plays a pivotal role as an advisory council co-chair for our new Center of Leadership. Thank you so much for all you do, Mike. Please help me welcome Michael.
Thank you, Gabrielle, and thank you for everything you did today to make everything work so perfectly. Good morning, everyone, and we're now going to introduce John Fetter, who's the co-chair of the advisory council with myself and Pamela, and he's going to give an overview of what we're going to try to accomplish for the college, give some opportunities to everyone at this great school, and then John will call up the panelist, Arnaz, and I'll be filling in for John Monte. Some bios just need to be read, and I know John pretty well now, and when I read his bio this morning, I learned a lot, so I'm going to read that. John Profeta founded Medical Excellence Capital in 2020 and serves as Chief Executive Officer and the Managing Partner. Over the past 30 years, John has served as an operator and consultant to Academic Medical Centers International. He also serves as chairman of the Medical Excellence Foundation, a charitable organization dedicated to providing grants to support America's most promising healthcare research at academic medical centers and research institutes. In 2009, John co-founded the Medical Excellence Group, a global private health advisory firm with offices in New York, Moscow, London, and Shanghai, and has served as the chairman since its inception. The company operates as a virtual family office for healthcare, offering comprehensive state of science programs in preventive medicine, complex case medicine, telemedicine, and longevity. From 20 to 23, John served as the presidency of MedX Resources on the New York Stock Exchange. Prior to this, John served as the managing partner of Agilent's Health Advisors and On-Point Advisors consulting companies during an academic medical centers. Lastly, and as a veteran who's touched my soul, he's a founding board member of Veterans Moving Forward, a 501c3 charity that serves veterans with physical and mental challenges. Additionally, John is a founding board member of Curol Leaf, a publicly held, very important, publicly held medical cannabis company that is now the largest integrated provider in the United States. One of the most treasured experiences for John was as board member of America's Huey 091, a project that fully restored a Vietnam-era helicopter and donated the aircraft to the Smithsonian Institute. The helicopter is now the largest artifact at American at War exhibit in the Smithsonian. John is a graduate of the second greatest college in the United States of America, Harvard Executive Program, and the third best college after the College of Mount St. Vincent, undergrad from St. John's University. John?
Well, thank you very much, and Mike, thank you very much. I didn't write that. I think I would have made it much shorter, but thanks everybody for showing up today. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed His Excellency's talk this morning. I hope all of you did. It was extremely inspirational, but it also reminded me never to be the next speaker after a charismatic bishop. Probably not the best thing to do in life. So it's a lesson learned. We're here to talk about taking a school, an institution, and its students to another level. This institution, I've come to learn over the last 6 or 8 months, is a very special one. It has a Catholic mission, but it also has a mission in terms of molding and making the future leaders in this country. And I'm very proud to be working with Alan Newman and Michael Hoffman in putting together an institute that will support that mission going forward. I'm very excited. I applaud the administration in terms of its soul, in terms of wanting to do something really special and different for its students. When I learned about the draw of this school in terms of the archetypal typical individual that goes and attends this school, it reminded me of my own upbringing. I was four of us in a one-bedroom apartment in Queens, sandwiched on the second floor, and having best friends on the first floor and best friends on the third floor. And I always looked at that world of success as something that was not open to me, and not I always thought that there was a secret handshake. You know, like there's a secret grouping of people, and we weren't allowed in there. And so as I grew and as I started to build my career, I found out a very important lesson in life. That's not true. The reality is that anyone can succeed in this city, anyone can succeed in this nation. That's absolutely true. I am a testament to that. I am a testament to that. But I'll also say that as we move this program forward, we're going to bring a series of speakers of individuals who are at the pantheon of their profession, but all came from the same place that you did. And the reason that Mike and Pamela and I want to do that is because you have to be shown that this is real, that it can happen, and it can happen to you if you decide that's what you want to do in life. If you really want to be successful, if you really want to be a leader, you can do it. There's no obstacles whatsoever in terms of your ability to do it. And this school gives you the foundation, not only today, but as alumni in the future. Over your entire career, you'll see the support of this institution. So, a more formal presentation, I'm going to go through what we call now the CMSB Center for Leadership. It is a physical space, we hope, in the future, but more importantly, it's a concept and an idea that is going to be put into practice for your benefit and for your value, I hope, in the future. And I need to remember to do this. Okay. Why teach leadership at all? And first of all, is leadership something that can be learned? Or can it be taught? Is there a program on leadership that gives any individual magic, knowledge, or even inspiration in terms of moving forward in their life? The answer to that is no. It all comes from within. What we can give you is a set of knowledge, a set of tools, and then mentors and people to look at in terms of their careers and say, they were me, and I can do that too. That's what we're looking to get done here at the Mount. I'm learning how to say the Mount. The Mount. So being a leader is absolutely not teaching. We can't teach you how to be a leader. But we can teach you the elements of leadership, what leadership is about, and we can show you examples organized around leadership. Second, not everybody is, I came from St. John's, Catholic school, St. Vincent de Paul, and a great school. And I also went to Harvard. And the difference between the two, I would say, is at Harvard, I learned a lot of incredible skills and made a lot of friends that helped me over a long period of time. I will tell you that. But at St. John's, I learned what is right to do. So what you have here in this school is, well, let me take a step back. I would say the correct statement is to say, leaders without morality and ethics are dangerous. They're dangerous people. We need to weed them out of our society. We need leaders that have the foundations, as His Excellency said, have the right foundations and the right thought in terms of how they interact with people, how they treat people, and more importantly, how they bring people together to succeed. You can do it in the right way and the wrong way. You see governments, we see it sometimes in our business leaders. What I love about this school is that over time, you're going to learn both sides. You're going to learn the morals and ethics and the grounding to be great leaders, and then we're going to give you the tools and skills to be great leaders going forward. Last, and I talked about that secret handshake, we're here to help you get a head start on succeeding. And it's going to be educational, all right? We're going to give you tools to do this, but in addition, we're also going to give you the relationships. Because one thing that you'll find out in business and as you go through life, relationships is everything. Relationships is everything. It's the key to being successful. It's also the key to being a good human being. So, our program, the formal program. What's our ambition? What do we want to get done? We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about how to achieve the goals. What are the discrete steps that we need to take to bring this program to fruition and to success on your behalf? Last but not least, no goal is useful unless you can measure it. You have to be able to measure the success or failure of the program or any endeavor that you're about to do. So we're going to take a lot of time going forward and in the future in terms of really looking to make sure that not only do we have a lot of activity going on, but it has a purpose and it has a positive result for the students of this institution. So, our ambition, it's not a big ambition. All we want to do is be a world-class and absolutely top-level preparatory program for leaders. And I laugh at that because we say, anytime you start, you always look at that hill, how big that hill is going to be and how difficult it is to take that hill. We're taking our first step today. But I'm also going to tell you that we're going to achieve that. Our mission to be a world-class leadership program is going to be fulfilled. Second, we're going to execute on it. So we're going to take those measurable, very, very small steps, ladder, building a great program, and we're going to execute on that program. We want to be a resource for the students, not just today. You're here for 4 years, you're here for 5 years, whatever, in terms of the programs that you're in. But when you're a student of a school that you care about, and a school that cares about you, it's a lifelong relationship. My relationship with St. John's, my relationship with Harvard is a lifelong relationship. Yours will be too. And the question for the leadership, all of us, is how valuable is this going to be? How valuable? Is it going to be useful to you, not only in terms of getting a job, but more importantly, is it going to be useful to you in your life going forward? So I'm 62 years old now. I've had a relationship with St. John's for 40 years and 25 years of Harvard, and I still value friendships, the mentorship, the grounding that I received, and I hope that our program will be a small part in helping you have the same affection that I have. So that's our ambition. Last but not least, success brings success. So we're going to look to build the recognition of our program from a school that has a reputation today in terms of where it is to, in terms of building leaders, I'm talking about specifically, to an organization where other institutions look to us for leadership in creating leaders. That's where we want to be in the future. That's our ambition. And we're going to measure it, and we're going to get there. There's always a process, right? We got to get things done. It's not just talking, it's getting things done. So, we're going to put together a leadership basic training course. Basic training means what it's like to be a leader, what are the elements of leadership, how leaders are built, and also working on the polish of being a leader as well. If you're going to lead in the future, people have to be willing to follow you. They have to be willing to follow you. And although I won't argue with His Excellency in terms of leadership front, center, or back, the reality is that leaders lead from the front most of the time, and they should. And they should. We're going to teach you how to do it. Second, we're going to teach you marketplace awareness, because I bet most of you came to school here in your first year the same way that I did going to St. John's over 40, no, it wasn't 40 years ago. It was 40 years ago. And that was, I didn't know what a financial, I knew what a bank was, because I used to go and I had $60 in the bank, and I went to, I had a bank book, and that was great. I didn't know what financial institutions did. I didn't know what academic medical centers did. I didn't know what media did. I had no idea about any of that. Well, we're going to fix that. If you're in the same situation, we're going to fix that. We're going to give you the tools, but we're also going to give you the market awareness in terms of what does that role look like? What does a media company look like? What does a healthcare company look like? What does academic medical research look like? What does a hospital look like? Et cetera, et cetera. We'll go right down the line. Third, we're going to give you interviewing skills. So no one's showing up in a t-shirt for an interview, like I thought I might have done at one point in my life, which I did. Did not get that job. We're going to teach you how to look and project as leaders. That's our job. We're going to get that done for you. Last but not least, let me see how to open this circle. Last but not least, and this is not least, because this is the inspiration part. We're going to bring in a series of speakers who are, as I mentioned earlier, at the top of their profession. But what's really important is they started exactly where you are today. And the reason that we're going to do it isn't just to inspire you, it's also to create no excuses in terms of reasons why you can't get that done. We're in a no excuses environment. We're going to show you that, yes, you can start out as the son or daughter of a cab driver, or as I did, a guy in manufacturing, right? But that's not where you have to be, and that's not where you have to stay. Last, talking about measuring the results. The reason that we're going to measure results is there's no sense in having a lot of volunteers working on something if it's not really benefiting. We're here to benefit. So we're going to measure the results. We're going to measure it in terms of customer satisfaction from your standpoint. We're going to hear from you. We want to hear, what are your experiences? Are you getting the internships? So we're going to measure the number of internships that you're getting. We're going to measure the quality of internships. In other words, if I hear that somebody has you getting coffee every day, they're going to hear from one of us. Because we want to make sure that whatever you're doing out there, representing our school in internships, you're doing something valuable. And it's something valuable to you over a long period of time. We're going to measure it by the range of industries, because you live in the most diverse city in the country. And its diversity is not just in terms of its people, but also in terms of its businesses. There are not-for-profits that are world-class and do incredibly valuable work. There are media companies, there are healthcare companies, there are venture capital companies, there's financial companies. We're going to get as many internship relationships with the things that matter to you. So we're going to ask you the question, where do you want to be? You want to be with a media company? We're going to try and get you media. You want to be with a financial company? We're going to work on the financial world. The most important thing, though, is we're going to measure the bottom line. And the bottom line is, how many internships did you get, and how many did they convert to actually having at least the foundation of a long-term career with that organization? So this is what we're hope you're excited as I am about it, because we're going to put together, I think, a great program, and looking forward to working with each of you.
Here we are.
That was very bad.
It's good to see you again. And thank you for taking very precious and valuable time. We have so many choices in terms of the places we need to be. And I'm very happy that you're here with us. So, my job today is to introduce John DeMonte, who is the president of Bristol Myers Squibb Foundation. Unfortunately, you see Mike here. And I don't say that because we love him. We love him. But the reality is that Mr. DeMonte actually has COVID, and we thought discretion was the better part of valor, right? And for him to stay home and get well quickly. So representing the Bristol Myers Squibb Foundation today is our inaugural icon. I'm also uniquely delighted to introduce Ms. Hana Sandhu, who is the Miss Universe 2021. I had the opportunity to spend an extended period of time with her last week. And I just want to say how thoughtful, caring, and what really was to my heart, she's picked an area of expertise and an area of philanthropy and an area of effort that is measurable. I used to hate, to tell you the truth, I used to hate hearing someone getting up there and saying, I want world peace. Yes, we all want world peace. But the reality is that that's not measurable. It's something that's measurable. So, we're going to speak about the power of public-private partnerships and global health initiatives, and we're going to share insights on advancing menstrual equity. I did not know what that was. I've been in healthcare for 30 years. I did not know what that was. I didn't know the extent of the problem. I've been converted. I'm a believer, and I believe that we're going to make a measurable impact on that. So, Ms. Sandhu is committed to using her global platform as Miss Universe to address the challenges of period poverty. Period poverty refers to the lack of access to menstrual products, sanitation facilities, and adequate education. Just imagine that. There's over 500 million people that don't have that. I was just amazed at this issue, and again, I applaud you for attacking it. So she's the daughter of a prominent gynecologist in India, and she told me her personal stories about following her mother around to clinics in India and helping the poorest of the poor, the people that needed the most help. And again, many people are doing that because as a teenager, as a young child, you also had other things that you could have been doing. So, I think that Ms. Sandhu has a unique perspective on the consequences of period poverty, particularly because of most gynecologists. And she realizes the urgency, opportunity, and feasibility of meaningfully tackling the process and the crisis. Now, Mike, you're representing John DeMonte, who is with a company that I've known for many years, Bristol Myers Squibb, which is an incredibly great company that produces medicines that save people's lives and makes their lives better every day. experience of working in health policy, government affairs, and social responsibility. And under John's direction, the Bristol Myers Squibb Foundation created a program called Secure the Future. It's an initiative that they founded over 20 years ago that has made a positive and lasting difference through its support of more than 250 projects in 22 African countries. A major partner in Secure the Future, Botswana was the first and only country with a high burden of HIV to achieve a mother-to-child HIV transmission rate of under 5%. I can tell you as a healthcare policy expert, that's unheard of. That's an incredible, that's again, a measurable difference that a company and a foundation is making for millions of individuals. So, and interestingly, you into this, Secure the Future partnered in Africa with Nkubi Kobe, who was Miss Universe 1999, who called attention initially to the issue. Now, John is partnering who is going to be an advisor to a newly formed collective called the Global Menstrual Equity Accelerator. And we're going to learn more about that today and its importance for women and men across the globe. The genesis of the Global Menstrual Equity Accelerator was inspired by Ms. Sanders, who is, as I mentioned earlier, an absolutely inspirational person. She's going to continue her efforts in solving period poverty long after her reign as Miss Universe. Another thing that I admire about her, it's not a one-year commitment, it's going to be a long-term commitment. That as well. So, I have some questions. So I'm going to do my best Mike Douglas today. And so, Arnaz, as the reigning Miss Universe of 2021, you passionately utilize your platform to bring attention to some very difficult and important challenges that face women and girls. You've dedicated your reign to addressing period poverty and striving to overcome the stigma attached to what is considered to be many, and in many cultures, taboo. Still, to this day, I want to ask you, how did you first understand and become passionate around menstrual health?
First of all, thank you for your time for this. I was just getting so overwhelmed. And thank you everyone for being here and for making this happen. So all started when I was just, I think, when I had my first period actually. And that's where, before that, my mom being a gynecologist really got me about the meaning of menstrual health and everything and how to do the process of everything. So I consider myself as being fortunate young girl who grew up with knowledge of menstrual health and everything. And I could buy as many sanitary products as many as I wanted because I had access. But when I used to go out with my friends, that was the time I realized that's not the same thing for so many women in my own community. And that was really disheartening. I saw women coming up to her, asking for a pad, and then hiding that and all that. It was just too heart-wrenching for me. And I asked my mom a lot of questions. And I saw that she had that faith to break that taboo within her community and women around her. And I felt like I just want to be like her. I also want to do something. I don't want to be a doctor. I think that's such a good difficult profession for me. It takes every day. It's a noble profession. But I said I want to be a powerful woman like my mom. So I realized that this is the topic that I want to do. So I started learning more about Miss Universe when I was just 17, and I always looked up to Miss Universe as a platform where, of course, you get to travel around the world for work and you meet incredible people. You go for games and everything. You go for premiere, and like you do incredible things, but you also have a purpose. And I already had a purpose, but I just wanted the right platform to talk about my purpose. Couldn't find anything that was better than Miss Universe, where we empower women from different backgrounds. We empower beauty in all shapes, all colors, all sizes. And I was like empowering women for their own health, to achieve anything in their lives, I wanted to be on that level. So I was happy that I was crowned after 21 years, and I got crowned for my country after 21 years, so I was very happy, and this really took forward. And when I look back, traveling around the world, I've been to so many countries till now, and I can see that there's one thing in common, is that women really want to achieve their goals. And they feel that the stigma is still there. It's still happening. It was there since the start. They are stopping themselves because they are asked to stay there. If I talk about my own country, India, that's where it starts. There are women who are called impure when they are menstruating. They are asked to stay away from their own home during those 7 days. They can't go to the kitchen, they can't touch pickles, they can't go to the temple, the normal things that we can do every day. And that's really awful because when every girl has her periods, she feels shameful. And then most of them miss their schools. And then they never go back for months. They never go back. That leads to their educational problems. And they never achieve things. That's where they thought that they were different. So that whole thing, more I learned about mental equity, it's about having affordable and giving that access to period products so that we end period poverty is when women don't have access to that product. Either they can't buy it, they don't have enough money, or there are not enough pads for them to buy. And they have to choose between food and period products. And I think that's really both the things are important. That's where I felt like this needs to eradicate. It's a problem that can be eradicated if all of us work on it.
I remember you also telling me that the issue isn't just in third world countries, it's also in first world countries, like America, where you told me that several states.
Yes.
So
I'm so
please
much
talk about that, because we need to change that by that a lot.
Right. I was really surprised to, coming here for the first time in the US and being in other countries. And I was really surprised to see that there's a dam on there. I'm sure most of you know about it. And it's really like, why is there even a text on something which is really important? It's a mode of survival for us as women. It's a part of your body. It's not something. It happens. It's natural. And where I look back and I see there are other countries where they don't even have access, or they have to, because of the economic effect, a whole thing, they can't have enough pads. Where in the US they have tampon tax. It's something that I believe, and most of you will agree with that, it should be free. Because there are women right now, while we're talking, they're making a choice between should they buy food for their family or pads for themselves. And we always choose food. And you know what really happens when women hear sports? That leads to a lot of serious diseases. And due to that disease, a lot of women have lost their lives. Yes, a lot of women, my mom knows a lot of women, lost their lives. And that's really heartbreaking to see that just because they think that taking care of your own health is wrong, or talking about, or buying something for your health, and your mental health is wrong, that will take your life. How precious your life is for you.
Well, I know Mike has been a friend of John's for a long time. You've represented perfectly. I'm going to ask you about the fact that he created and managed quite a few public-private partnerships advancing global health in some of the most challenging geographies. I'm sure he told you some great stories. We want to hear how these things actually work.
Thank you, John. It's great to be here. John Lamont is my best friend for 30 years, and he was my first client on changing our world. We worked on Secure the Future. Before there was a global fund for AIDS, when AIDS literally started killing people in Africa initially and then around the world, Kofi Annan was the head of the United Nations. He sat next to the CEO of Bristol Myers Squibb, Charlie Heingold, and said, "Please help save my people. You have the drugs. Please help save my people." So Bristol Myers Squibb put $200 million into South Africa, 5 countries initially. And they built clinics, they had distribution system, women and men religious were the only ones who could get the drugs out in the bush. And they had everything all set up, and nobody came. she stood up and told the entire continent of Africa, take these drugs, they'll save your children's lives, they can prevent maternal-child transmission. And then miraculously, just like Parnas is doing with this issue, everyone started taking the drugs. And President Botswana, just about 2 months ago, publicly announced the maternal-child transmission under 5%, which is unheard of, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Kula. And the key is to have a phenomenal leader who's real and passionate. I've worked with 21 Miss Universes. I helped pro bono on this. My friend runs it. And every time I'm with you, you inspire me on this. And you're real. You're obviously a movie star, famous model, and everything. But you're changing the world with this initiative. 1 in 5 young girls right here in the United States does not have access to national schools.
So one of the questions we were going to ask John, I wonder if he actually transmitted this to you. Successes in public private partnerships, very, very difficult to achieve. Very, very difficult. Because there are so many moving parts to it. We've talked about an example of success. What do you think some of the greatest failures? Crystal Myers was saying, where did it not work and why?
When you set up partnerships, you have someone like Parnas. When she leaves here today, if she doesn't post on her social media like she just did for some friends of mine, there are 5 million followers. 500 million people in 3 days watched the video she sent out. So most colleges, most non-for-profit organizations, most religious communities, those doing the work on the ground don't get that kind of publicity. It's impossible for them to get. So we learned in this first partnership we did with Crystal Myers Squibb, we didn't have all the not-for-profit partners immediately there when we did the front page story of the Wall Street Journal, which no colleges, not-for-profits ever get that kind of access. So the key is right from the beginning to have all the not-for-profit NGO partners as a big part of it. And then everything in public-private partnerships is local. We had to set up local government secretariats, local representation, local accounting of the money, and everything else. And that's exactly what we're doing now with Parnas. We've already started in India. We know it costs $3 every young woman and girl to get access to the advocacy and the education. And it's $3 for every young woman and girl. So we've already started. We hope to reach 5 million people in 3 years in her home country. And we've already started in South Africa, Indonesia, Vietnam. We've been in several other countries, and we hope to reach 50 million in 5 years. And then, as long as Parnas is willing to continue to lead this, we want to measure 500 million. Why not?
I also remember you talking a little bit about providing not only the keys and the drive, but also the actual manufacturing, bringing it in-country to make it less expensive and more accessible. Can you talk a little bit about that?
When you talk about that,
Yes,
Yeah.
I really adore him and really respect him a lot. There's actually a movie, Anna, on Netflix. You have to watch, PADMAN. And it's actually based on this true story where he has a mom, okay, he has 2 sisters, but he never knew about menstrual health or even the word menstrual or menstruation until he married. And he realized that his wife used to stay away from him during those 7 days. And he used to wonder what exactly is happening. And that one day he asked, and she was always shy about it. He's like, no, I don't want to talk about it. But then one day he realized that, okay, this is menstrual health. This is, about something which is normal and natural. And he tried to make his wife comfortable and his sisters and everyone, but they all ran away. So he said, this is a serious problem. He realized that they were using laws and they were not taking care of themselves. He realized this wrong. So he used the pad on himself. I wanted to tell you the whole story because you didn't watch it. But in the end, he created a pad machine and sustainable pads. And that machine will not only give livelihood to women in that rural area, but also giving pads to women. It's about women supporting each other. So we donated that one pad machine in Delhi and one in the Philippines. and he's so excited and eager to work more on that. So that's such an inspiring story of someone who does not mince ways, as being so supportive. So that would I like to always say that we need men, we need boys to support in this cause. We can't just dismiss them. If we are educating girls about mental health and the whole terminology, we need boys also to educate themselves about it. It's nothing that we need to run away from. Mothers are teaching their daughters about it, they need to teach their sons. My mom did that with my brother and my dad, and the support that I get. So it's something that might make you a little bit uncomfortable, but this is the reality. And we need everyone together to break this thing. So I'm really happy that we're working with him and
what I love about that idea also is it gets back to the Bible in terms of giving them or teaching them. And what you're doing is providing pushing it. So it's very exciting that you do that. Let's get back to for a moment to leadership and organizing around a concept and an idea. It's one fundamental in terms of leadership is actually having a vision and making it real in terms of the concept and something that people are willing and want to follow. So you have created what's known as the Global Menstrual Equity Accelerator. And for everyone to know, it was officially launched at the Global Citizen Festival during the UN General Assembly last month. So it's getting worldwide, global government recognition, and it's reaching millions of people around the world. Tell us a little bit about that concept, how you came about it, and what you're doing.
Well, I would love that Mike will answer that question first, and I'll follow up with that.
Thank you, Arna. So, I was watching this year's telecast this year of my two daughters. One graduated from the college, and I was grateful to the college for that, and she also graduated from nursing school. I said, I hope Arna has friends. I really like her, and I think she would actually want to do philanthropy, which is what I helped she first with for a while. And then she said she wanted to focus on menstrual equity. I'm embarrassed to say, like John, I didn't know what it was. I asked my two daughters. And the first thing I did was ask my research department of my company, which is what the kids are like for research, and they gave me a 140-page research paper on it, so I did very quickly. And then I met Arnaz, and she said, I want to do this and I'll commit to it for the rest of my life, just not to be on this university. We got Procter & Gamble, we got the Miss Universe organization, which has 10,000 representatives locally like Arnaz, which can reach a billion people on social media. The entire organization is behind it. Price Group is behind it, Global Citizens behind it. I made a big donation from my family foundation, and we created the Global Menstrual Equity Accelerator. You all have our bracelet here. If you picked one up, these are handmade in India for a country. Each piece is an individual piece of glass. So we would ask you to wear these and post on this.
Yes, actually I was like thrilled and I was so excited to be on the global stage. We were like 500 people were there, present in Central Park, and I don't know how many people streaming online. And it was just a great comfortable moment for me, being on the stage and getting everyone's attention for that moment to talk about this accelerator, the Global Menstrual Equity Accelerator. And I was really happy. I felt like I was back at this university. But having during the UN assembly, it was just so important, and I felt so happy to do something purposeful. And that has been one of the best days, and I'm going to include today also of my reign. So I was really happy to talk about the whole goal about it, to reach around 5 million people around the world who menstruate and 5 million in India. And I believe that if we didn't even think about it, we can make it happen together.
So, it's a big goal. 500 million. So what we're interested in is, what are the mechanics of getting that going? And how do you think it's going to impact and what type of systemic change
like youth who truly believe in a cause and purpose. I'm just like you, I'm just one of you. I'm also doing my master's back in India. So it's just like we all have purpose and we need to realize. And I am truly when I say I am committed to this purpose because if we think it's a big number, it can happen. We might be beyond 500. So education and giving access and acknowledging it is really important. So this accelerator will enhance the education, will work on the causes, and it will also give that access to sustainable paths. The more we normalize it, that's how we really
You also need government's organized, which I think is absolutely essential, and using your platform as a way to get to those governments.
It's very important. I would like Mike to answer that question.
So we'll be setting up local secretariats in each country, and the G20, which is the top 20 as a state in the world, the United States being one of them, is in India next year. So we'll be doing a big thing around that in India, the head of state of India. And if you don't work with government, they have more money than all, so we will. And then it's really one school at a time. Parnassus in India, Whisper, which is the Procter & Gamble national product brand there. They're and Plan India, our NGO partner, they work in the most remote areas where there is no access. These issues are not talked about. She's been going out school by school, visiting the girls, talking about this openly. The parents are aware of it, so they're being educated, there's advocacy, and then they're getting access to supplies. And it has to be one school at a time, globally. That's what John, we should probably do one more question, and then I know a lot of people want to get a picture with Parnassus, and we want to stay on point here.
Sure. So the last question is advice. Advice on leadership. Advice on taking a cause.
So I mentioned that I've worked with 21 universities. They have my friend, her dad's an Annapolis graduate, I'm a West Point graduate. So when she asked me to help, she assigns me to work with Esther, who's here to my right. I've been working with Esther for 20 years. She's in our town for this university. She knows every one of these 10,000 women in the network. And she travels extensively with Marnaz and all the other leaders. They have a whole team. If whatever you want to be, you want to become a lawyer, you want to be an actress, you want to become a movie star, you want to be a television, whatever you want to do. And then if you really want to focus on philanthropy, that might Marnaz is the fourth person that's chosen in philanthropy. So the key to leadership, and we just need to talk about these people more at the UBS Private Bank. And she very humbly said, well, I know I'll make a lot of movies, I know I'll get a lot of modeling assignments, I'm finishing my master's, but this, what we're talking about today, is the most important thing that I'll be working on for the rest of my life. And that's leadership, that's commitment, that's being authentic. Authentic is the most important thing to be a leader. And this is not why she's doing it. She'll get more movie roles, more modeling actresses, more corporate spokesperson roles, because this project is personal.
I truly agree. I think being a leader of your own life is much more important than doing something else or being a leader of someone's life. It all starts with it. If you believe and you have that faith and you know those qualities and you know the purpose of exactly what you want to do, you can conquer anything and anything in your life. If you still have to work at it. I always believed in myself. I always said that I knew it for myself. Even this call, I feel it's something that gives me that happiness when I see one girl coming up to me and telling her story, and he says that I've broken that whole stigma and now I'm free. I'm free to be the leader of my life and I'm free to achieve the goals that I really aimed for. And that just gives you the confidence. It's a self-confidence, self-esteem that builds you. You all are working for your own brands. That's your name. That's your mission. So be you in the end of the day. As
and I just saw you, I'm not sure where you went to, but thank you, Mike, for filling in for John as well. And for those of you who got your photos with Mr. Beavers, I hope you're posting them and tagging not St. Vincent, hashtag right place on the river. Make sure that you're telling that story of this great stuff that's happening here at the Mount. I am pleased to introduce our next speakers, Dr. Dan Inaugural and Pat Tercy. Dan knows the college very well. He's actually our neighbor, and now alum of the college as well, earning an honorary degree in 2019. He is the president and CEO of River Spring Health, a leading nonprofit senior care organization with a century of history and leadership, including the operation of the renowned Hebrew home at Riverdale, which is located next door to the college. Under his tenure, River Spring Health has grown significantly to include a comprehensive suite of care solutions, from managed long-term care and assisted living to rehabilitation services, senior housing, and skilled nursing. We are always thrilled to welcome you back home to the right place on the Berkeley Mount as an esteemed professional colleague and friend. Dan, welcome. Pat Tercy is also a good friend of the college. She is the CEO of Elizabeth Seton Children's, a ministry of the Sisters of Charity. At Elizabeth Seton Children's, their mission is to give a full and happy life to children and young adults who have some of the most challenging and limiting medical conditions on earth. They are distinctive in their care, teaching, and determination in offering these young people a transformative chance to thrive. Pat has been instrumental to their success as the largest provider of pediatric acute care in the United States. Please join me in welcoming Pat Tercy to the college. Commitment to health equity in faith-based healthcare institutions, and Dr. Gabrielle Ochoa-Gross is going to help facilitate. Gabrielle?
I know Ellen DeGeneres for Barbara Walters, but I will do my best to facilitate this panel. Thank you so much, Dan and Pat, for joining us today. So, although Susan has provided a wonderful introduction for you both, could you both reintroduce yourselves and your role at your organization, and maybe as well talk about the mission of your organization?
I'm Pat Tercy, which you heard from the Seton Children's, and we are, it's nice, I've known Dan for many, many years. It's probably as long as I've been in the field, which is, I don't even want to say. But at any rate, when I first entered the field of course in long-term care, and I worked 4 years in healthcare, I worked with the elderly, and that's typically what you think about long-term care. However, there's another whole universe on the other side for children that I didn't know anything about 20 years ago. And Elizabeth Seton Children's is actually a long-term care facility for children who are born with medical complex conditions. And they're not like normal, just childhood diseases. Our kids have 3 or 4, or sometimes even 5 chronic conditions that really makes it impossible for them to live at home in community. So we have 169 children at Elizabeth Seton Children's Center in Yonkers, which is just like and about 70 of our kids are on ventilators. There's only 5 children who can eat any partial foods by mouth. So most of our kids, have feeding tubes. And we range from, a few weeks old all the way up to age 21. Until recently, we've gotten enabling legislation that allows our young adults to stay. Because advances in technology and modern medicine and great care has now enabled our kids to thrive and they're outwarding their life expectancies. So it's fabulous news, but it came to our attention about 8 years ago when we were discharging the children that they died in the middle of their care. So the state advocated and made change. So when I think about, we also have a community-based program in White Plains. So we have a community-based program innovation in pre-K, where we graduate 85% of the kids from mainstream back into their school districts, and then the remaining 15% go to like a policy support program. And we also have an outpatient clinic that is primarily medical services and OT, PT, and speech. It gives all the kids the sort of milestone support services, so they're able to continue to meet their childhood milestones, so they continue to grow and hopefully be independent for their life. We have had children who graduate college from our programs, and they will continue on to be very successful in their lives. So that's sort of our mission really is of the Sisters of Charity. Our foundress and our namesake is St. Elizabeth Seaton, and we really are inspired by her love and her commitment to children, and the Sisters carries them really going their unmet need, and to make sure that you're providing services to those most vulnerable in society.
Good afternoon. Good to be with you. As Dr. Burton said, I'm a proud dolphin. Getting the honorary doctorate degree here in 2019 was truly one of the greatest moments of my life. It was a pleasure to be in a tent with all of the graduates of the college and to see the energy and excitement of all the students, many of whom were first-time college attendees. And so when I was able to be invited to get that degree, and it sounds so sweet to hear Dr. Burton call me Dr. Michael, it doesn't mean I get to park in the empty spots. But I will tell you that when I go back to work today, I'm going to say, look, I don't want to say that we had a great speech, but this universe was the warm-up act. Anyway, River Spring Living is a wide-ranging program of services for older adults. The Hebrew Home is the world-renowned nursing home that's next door to you, and we love our neighbor relationship with the college. We have a lot of intergenerational programs and more to come. And in addition, we're taking care of about 15,000 older adults in their own homes throughout the city of New York every single day. During COVID, we were pretty busy with building affordable housing. We completed 2 beautiful green affordable housing programs in the East Bronx, which we're very proud of, and continue to take care of folks during what has been the worst public health pandemic in our lifetime. No fun, not easy, but hopefully lessons learned for all of us about not only how to deal with the pandemic, but how to appreciate good health and good life every single day.
So this panel is titled about faith-based organizations, and our focus today is on health equity. So what does health equity mean in terms of being a faith-based organization? And would you say it's a social justice issue?
So, health equity, in my opinion, is an absolute right. And I think we need to be very clear about that health is not an option, it is not a privilege, it is not something that you're lucky enough to get. And unfortunately, sometimes it's treated that way because there are enormous disparities in the delivery of health care in this country and around the world. But interestingly, perhaps the greatest health disparity that exists is actually among the aged and older adults. And I say that not to exclude any other cohort of population, but because aging unifies all of us. It cuts across every socioeconomic cohort. It covers every race and economic and national identity. And therefore, it is in its own, it's one of the greatest populations that is getting disparate treatment in healthcare. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we have this conversation. But what I want to point out to everybody, and it's a very huge, I would call it a very huge, how to describe it, misunderstanding. Aging is not a disease. Getting old is not a disease. But unfortunately, our society and societies around the world treat aging as though it's a disease. And that is the primary reason that there's so much disparity in health between in the older adult population. Aging is, however, a public health crisis. And I'll talk some more about that later.
I think that being a not-for-profit and our mission is certainly, I already talked about who we're serving. We absolutely see the health disparities. When I think about our organization, is that we can't really change, impact, and profound results of not receiving proper health care. And so I think of us as more of a downstream provider instead of the upstream that's doing more on prevention. Although we do a lot of advocacy for changing regulations as we see some of these horrible outcomes. And our families, many of them are, we have undocumented families, we have a lot of first generation, majority of our families don't speak English. Our kids have had, no fault of their own, unlike what, Dan talked about the elderly, I agree with, but, the kids didn't deserve to have happened what happened to them. So I feel like our role is really to provide that loving environment, the expert care, the trust, and I can tell you that the kids in our care get the best health care possible. It's unfortunate that they didn't have it from the birth, from the start in their lives, because their lives would be completely different. We do have some kids with genetic disorders, so don't get me wrong with that, but that is, not the majority of who we serve. So I think that, the health disparities is, I think we're sort of a living example of all the inequities, and our population that we serve is 75% minority, and most of our families are from the outer boroughs.
I just want to comment too on the earlier very impactful comments regarding leadership and the significance of what that means to all of you as the students here. Leaders are not born, they're made, and you can choose to be a leader. And the first thing that I'll say about leadership is that you must become a leader of your own life. That is sounds cliche, but it's actually very, very true. You must become the leader of your own life. Make the choices that will allow you to lead a life of worth, consequence, and of change to make the world a better place. And that is the most important leadership role that anyone can take. Once you've done that, becoming a leader in an organization is easy because you've exhibited confidence and self-discipline. And that's ultimately what has to happen in any role where you're asked to be a leader. And leadership is sometimes formed by the circumstances that have thrust you into that role. And none of us saw that more than we did during the pandemic. We were left to our own devices, all of us, Pat included. Elderly people were significantly impacted in ways that were unbelievable. Just to give you, for instance, 16% of the population of the United States are older adults. 75% of the people who died of COVID were older adults. There's your health disparity right there. And it was, in my opinion, the most egregious example of ageism that we could have ever come up with, is that we allowed older adults to die, knowing that they were going to be impacted by the pandemic. And then we had two politicians, one at the New York State level and one at the federal level, who were fighting it out and using older adults as pawns for political purposes. It was disgusting. So the leadership that we need in the field of older adults, in the field of healthcare, and children, in the field of healthcare in general, is huge. And the opportunities are huge. And I really embrace the initiative of the college to create a leadership institute. And I hope that all of you will choose to come into this field, whether it's older adults or children or healthcare in general, because we desperately need you and we desperately need leadership.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. My next question was going to be about the pandemic, and we've all been through a lot in the past couple of years. So to both of you, and Dan, feel free to expand, and Pat as well. What did the pandemic teach you about health equity and access to health care? How can we move forward at this really tough time?
We had a little different experience than the elderly, and thank goodness. But at the time, when we went down in lockdown, all of our kids had respiratory issues, all of our kids had neurological issues. Because of the ventilators, and if the kids aren't ventilated, they need to treat gases in order to breathe. So we were thinking that if one person and one child, particularly we have 4-bedded rooms, unlike because it's kids, and we want to have one nurse for every 4 children that are, high respiratory needs and respiratory therapists and all of it. So we were really convinced and were very, vigilant, because we felt our kids would maybe really need all of them. And the unfortunate part too, that probably, struck me the most, was not being able to have parents visit their kids. pandemic of all of it, because we were really blessed. We went 300 days and not one child tested positive. And we had no loss of life. And when our first child did test positive, I felt like if we waited until Christmas, it was the day after Christmas. And we got notified, and they said we had 3 kids, all different rooms. They were all 4-bedroom rooms that tested positive. And come to find out, because they never had any symptoms, none of the roommates ever had any symptoms. So we knew something was up, and they said it was actually a mistake in the lab. Now, our governor would not, or DOH, but our actually, yes, our former governor, the infectious control disease practitioner from the region Department of Health, actually Dr. Southwood, supported it and said that's what it was. But, you know, that kind of, you know, concerns, and because we are so high respiratory and built to hospital standards, with all pumped in oxygen and all of the things, we have an infectious disease doctor from Columbus. We had 2 infectious control nurses. We had PPE stacked all over the place. We had all of the supplies that we needed, and we didn't have any new admissions coming in because they're chronic long-term care. They're always 100% filled. So it's a whole different situation than what was happening in the nursing homes for the elderly. And so for me, it was like a blessing, and we didn't take it lightly. We really worked very hard to make sure that our kids and our staff were all safe. And we really had, I would say, you know, this huge amount of stress, staying up late at night and worrying about what could happen. And thank God it didn't. But I really feel that we had, you know, some blessings and some help from above to make sure that our kids really did remain safe. The families, on the other hand, our kids were emotionally just beyond, because our kids sometimes can't see, can't hear, you know, so all this about tablets and children, it just did not work. Our kids have a lot of cognitive deficits. In some cases, the child got too upset and hear the parent's voice and not understand why was the parent not there. And we had instances when they finally would be outside of a fence, like a zoo, looking in at the child. The child got so upset they would start crying. And we weren't able to do anything to change the regs. So we did, you know, I presented testimony when they finally had the hearings in the state, and they did turn the peds around for the elderly and then moved to make the changes to the elderly visitation. But I have to say, in my whole career, for 9 months, to separate parents from their child. And in some instances, you know, the child was palliative, we didn't have the child die, which were their normal, natural conditions. We were allowed to allow them in. But they didn't see their child for those months prior, until like the last day of their child's life. So, you know, I do think that you have to be strong, like Dan was saying, with your leadership, and you have to be committed to go the extra mile and not to give up and keep fighting for what you know is right.
There were 4 lessons learned from the pandemic. The first is that isolation kills. Isolation has more negative health impacts than smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And we learned that, unfortunately, the hard way. The second is that trauma is real. People who've been traumatized by the pandemic, including our team at the Keeper Home, and the impact of trauma has a devastating effect on people's health. The third is that technology is here to stay. We learned so much about the importance of technology. It saved people's lives. Zoom is here to stay. You know, who knew what Zoom was 3 years ago? And today Zoom is an iconic word that we'll be using forever. The fourth is the workforce. We have never appreciated the people who take care of the sickest and most vulnerable people, and we need to do that. This is a workforce that risked their lives to take care of our elderly, our infirm, our children, and they did it with minimal incomes, with minimal kinds of protections. And this society owes a debt of gratitude to the workers who come to work every day and take care of the people in our lives. And we're seeing now in the workforce shortage what it really means like to not have those people. And we all need to be respectful and appreciative and supportive financially for all those people who make this world go round.
here who want to pursue a career in healthcare, so whether nursing, healthcare management, hospital administration, or being lab. So what is your advice to our students who want to pursue a career in healthcare?
I would say first off, I think Dan was saying, you sort of have to buckle up because you're going to be on a ride. I think it's a really exciting time. It's very dynamic, it's very fluid, it's constantly changing. I believe it's a high touch as well as high tech. We have to have both traits. The great part about healthcare is, unlike all these other professions, you can be without a job or be laid off. Healthcare is growing and always needs to be here. And from the standpoint in our organization, our workers, no matter, we have good days and bad days, just like any other organization, but they always come together, they always rally, and the mission and the children bring everybody together with coworkers. So on all the surveys, no matter what is going on, they always say that it's a vocation, and that it's much more a gift to them for being there and being able to provide the care to the kids. And they love their coworkers as well. So it's definitely a team. It's the concept that takes a village, and from nursing to aides to teachers, and we have all OTPT speech and social workers and dietitians and doctors and nurse practitioners, and there's just child life specialists and music therapists, art therapists. It just goes on and on. There are so many different people that have to come together to make quality of life for the children. I think that overall, I would say that it is, I've been doing it for 40 years, so obviously, and I've had all different roles, so it's a wonderful, wonderful journey, and I wouldn't change anything for the world.
During the pandemic, a lot of my friends who are in different professions bemoaned the fact that they had to work remotely. They were stuck at home, they were sitting in front of computers for 12 hours a day. And I, fortunately, didn't have that option. There was no working remote, and we have all our colleagues for work every day. Risking our lives, risking our health, not exactly what would happen. And I will tell you that it was an incredible experience to wake up every morning knowing that I had to do something with a mission and purpose, that what I was doing really mattered. And it was more about saving lives than about the quality of life. And if that is something that appeals to you in your heart, in your soul, then you really must come into the field of healthcare in one way or another. My colleague Josephine Catalano is here. Josephine coordinates the relationship. She coordinates the relationship between the colleges, and we love having them come as volunteers. We have programs for nursing school, now we do school for physician assistants, and we would welcome you. And if you get a taste, does this feel good to you? If it does feel good to you, you'll find a role. And as Pat said, people don't get laid off in healthcare. There's no ups and downs in the field. It's a very high demand field. 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every day, and we desperately need people to come to our field. It has to be right. Pat used the word vocation. It's not a job. It is not a job. It's a mission, it's a vocation, and it is the most incredibly rewarding. My background was in social work and law. I was a social worker in child welfare, and then went back and got a law degree, and I practiced law for 10 years. I enjoyed it, but then I came on to as a CEO. I probably will never make the kind of money I would have made if I had stayed in the law practice, but I can tell you that the reward that I feel in the work I do is absolutely immeasurable, as they say in that ad. It's priceless. And so I heartily encourage you to come into our field. We need you, and it is the most rewarding opportunity that you can have. And as Pat described, there's so many different ways that you can come into the field. From food service to being a physician, from nursing to being a therapeutic activities person, from engaging in any different aspect of care. So, I invite you to reach out to your college, to Josephine, come over as a volunteer and see how it feels. And if it feels good, it'll help you create a career out of it.
We also actually have a couple of residents from Legal and River Spring actually taking classes with us as well this semester, so we work with Josie on that. And they love having them, and they love being here as well. to you both. Our summit today is sponsored by the Center for Leadership. That's what we're talking about today. What does being a leader mean to you? And how can our students best prepare to be our future leaders? And Dan, you kind of alluded this before, but please both.
Because being a leader to me is an immense responsibility, and it's something that I don't take lightly. And I think about the leaders that came before me, and again, I'm going to talk about, where our mission is all inspired by St. Elizabeth Seton. And for me being a female and female in leadership, seeing what she did and her strength and her power and her perseverance and wanting to make a difference for those who were so much in need of education and healthcare. And then certainly the sisters who all followed and have been my mentors in my 20 years plus at Elizabeth Seton Children's. I think that you need to make sure that you're making that difference and you're transforming lives. And you have the ability to, listen and advocate and impact and influence. Like we talked about some of the laws and regulations. And I think that, some of the leadership and some of the things we think about a lot at the Children's Center is, we always say you do your best and we leave the rest to our dear God. Because, you have to work hard. And, the pandemic, I think, stretched people, like Dan was saying, beyond any kind of anything anyone thought about. And yet, there wasn't even a moment where anybody said, I'm not going to do this, or I'm too tired, or, people just had to get forward, which is another Seton motto. And you just have to be bold, and you have to be, persistent, and you have to not give up. Because I can't tell you in the last 20 years how many times I've been told, including even my board that thought I was a little bit crazy, it's not going to get done back. You can't do it. And I was like, no, we're going to do this. This is why, we hired me. This is what we're supposed to be doing. This is the legacy of the sisters. We have to do this because nobody else is there providing that service. And sure enough, we built a brand new facility, which I hope that you'd all come and visit. We're not far from here. And it really is, state of the art for the entire country and leading in, pediatric care for this population. And now, 2 years from now, God willing, we're going to open the first young adult center that I talked about. And we're going to be hiring 400 employees. So there is lots of growth, there's lots of opportunity, and I just really, welcome all of you to think about it. And I think, part of the leadership and diversity we're talking about is making sure we create workforce and environments where everyone's welcome and feels that they belong. And that's really what my role as a leader is in trying to impact and make a difference.
I think the one element that every leader has to have, and that every one of you has, is creativity. Because when you come into a leadership role, you're bringing a creative element to it. When I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Burns early on, she has a love of music. And so she's using her creativity to create a conservancy here at the college. That's a perfect example of how you use your personal creativity to make the world a better place. In my case, about 15 years ago, I was speaking with a colleague of mine, and we discovered that one of the greatest epidemics in public health crises in this country for older adults is elder abuse at home. That right now there are 2 million people, older adults in the United States, who are victims of abuse in their own homes. They're effectively prisoners in their own homes. And unlike child abuse and domestic violence, they're not out in society because we segregate older adults and we stigmatize older adults. And they're imprisoned by people. And so we got to talking, and I decided that what we needed to do was to create an emergency shelter for victims of elder abuse at the Hebrew home. And today, the Center for Elder Justice is the first elder abuse shelter in the country. We've helped about 20 other communities to create shelters in their organizations. Very delighted that Zoe Kliwa, who's a public health specialist at the Weinberg Center, is here and has been very actively involved as a public health crisis in elder abuse. But this came about out of a creative idea that there's a solution to the problem that we can make available to victims of elder abuse. We have lots and lots of work to go, but as Eleanor Roosevelt once said, it is far better to light one candle than to curse the darkness.
So much. So I want to open it up to anyone who has questions. Anyone brave enough to ask a question?
Come on, ask a question.
Are we all thinking about lunch? Yes, Dr. Burns.
So, being a leader is such a Catholic, full of wonderful opportunity. Being a leader during a pandemic is something you can't even imagine. How did you care for yourself during those times? How did you care for yourself and you care for others?
That's a wonderful question, and it's so important. I think the greatest responsibility that I had as a leader during the pandemic was to make sure that my team was taking care of themselves. And I talked about trauma, and don't kid yourself about trauma. The way to take care of yourself is to first recognize that you have to. That we're not immortal. We're human beings. There were many nights where I just don't stop. Trauma was terrible. But at the same time, I got up every morning and exercised, meditated. I watched my diet. I probably drank more alcohol than I should have. And again, I don't say it to be glib. People were doing things to deal with the pain and the suffering. That is not something I recommend. At one point, I realized that this is not a good idea. But the exercise for me was meditation. We have a woman who runs our Weinberg Center, Joy Solomon, is a trained certified instructor in breathing. And we began a twice-a-week breathing class. And it sounds funny to say, what do you mean breathing? Everyone knows how to breathe. No, you don't. You don't know how to breathe. And if you don't believe me, you take the class with Joy and you realize that exhaling is very important, that inhaling is very important, and just breathing. And during the worst moments of the pandemic, literally, we come together and do some deep breathing and just try to calm down and deal with the crisis. But the self-care, Dr. Burns, is a very, very important point. And it's true whether you're in a pandemic, whether you're doing finals, whether you're cramming for finals, you're suffering through a particular personal crisis, you must take care of yourself in whatever way works for you.
Pat, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think everything Dan said is I don't know what to really add to that. Other than I think that I'm probably the worst about taking care of myself. My biggest part, I think, for myself and healing is prayer. So that was really important to me, and we couldn't go to church, which was really devastating for me. And so I made sure I got hooked in to get some of the technology and media. We thought we would all be going for prayer services and prayer groups and religious, ceremonies and so that to me was something I didn't want to do, but I did. And then beyond that was really about the staff and the leadership. So I think with kids, we like to have a lot of fun, and we continue to have fun. So I think, having a good sense of humor and humility and eating food is like the other part that, and maybe we weren't always the right diet with that, but, we had for those who wanted to be healthy, but those who didn't want to and wanted to have treats, and we baked the best cookies ever and we were pounds, and we had lots of those kinds of things around for people. And also, again, we also have a faith-based environment. We're sponsored by the sisters. So we do a lot of prayer at work, and we also have the chapel, and we come together as a group to, talk about this, and we do scrapbooking, and we do all kinds of things like that, and drumming circles, and some of those things. So I know we do about the breathing and all of that too. And we also, brought in masseuses to give massages, and, so we tried to really, the direct care workers in particular with 12-hour shifts, and they were, sometimes sleeping in the building because, somebody couldn't get in or somebody was out, got the vaccines. What caused us a lot of angst was, the rules about quarantine. Because very often our kids are all in masks, children can't wear masks, so So they had to be, at that time, 14 days in a room if they had an exposure. An exposure was 15 minutes in the presence of somebody who tested positive, which was like sort of silly. The kids didn't get COVID because our staff all were wearing N95 masks with a mask over top of it and full PPE. So that was a little bit, I think, hard for us. So I think we were trying to keep the staff, upbeat and positive and have fun. Not to get out laughing and enjoy.
Thank you. So speaking of self-care, I think it's going to be time for lunch now. So let's please give Pat and Dan a